this is Cindy from Bosie Creative Living. I am back at working on my painting. Yeah, once I get going, it's like just getting started is the hardest part. And here's a tip. What I have here is just a ordinary lint roller, and I'll use that to get any dust or pet hair, since I do have a dog and 2 cats. I always find pet hair around. This way it doesn't get trapped in your paint and become impossible to get out. My next step, I'm going to get some greens into here. I've got the bright yellows on there, but there's a lot of green in those cactus fruits. Show you the picture again. There's without the glare. Here I go, finger painting again. I've got my greens in here a little bit, a lot more to go. That was very translucent. I kind of don't like that, but I'll be going over that with some darks and stuff too. So it'll be okay. And I do have a wraparound canvas here, which is nice because if you paint the edge as you go along, you don't have to frame this. You can just hang it up like it is. I like to do that, so that's an option. And I'm just going over my purples a little bit since I have it on the brush and on my fingers. Now my paintings are usually pretty realistic, which is hard to tell at this point. One thing about acrylic paints, they are water-based and they'll clean up unless you wait too long, and then they won't. It becomes permanent. I dropped the spatula I was using to mix the paint on the floor, on the carpet. But I cleaned it up right away, and it was fine. Some of the color mixtures I've used so far are actually the yellow. I just used a brilliant yellow. For making the purples, I used manganese blue and primary magenta. And I diluted that with a little bit of white, I think. You could, unless you want it darker. The blue is pretty dark, but it comes out to a nice purple. I went back and put in some details. Now I took my mechanical pencil, have a good eraser, because you can draw on this right now and erase it pretty easy. So I just had to get everything, I had to make sure the fruits were in the right place, and there's kind of like little dots. Well, there's circles in the middle of the fruits, and there's little dots on them. So I went through square by square, comparing each square to the square on here, so I could get all those little details in here. Because otherwise I would really be struggling later if I didn't have those details in there right now. And at this point I can erase on this. And again, you can erase if it's just a light coat of paint, but if you've got a pretty good coat of paint, it's not going to erase. So I have this set up. I used my ruler going across where the guide marks are, and I isolated using paper each of the 2.5-inch squares. And then I could get my details in by comparing that square to the square on here, and you can really get detail done. And then when you look at the next square, hopefully everything lines up if you have it right. Now your light situation changes throughout the day, if you can probably tell by this video. And I just moved my lamp over by me, so I'm shining a little extra light on the canvas. There is a, I think it's called a reveal bulb in there, and it has the natural daylight spectrum. Here I am so far. I need to go and put color on the centers of the fruits. It's kind of a peachy color. I painted them all white for now because these were yellow, so I wanted it to not have the interference of the yellow behind the peachy color. Good thing about acrylic, if you do have a mistake, and I did correct a couple on here, you can take the white paint and paint over it. Take a couple coats to cover it well enough, and then just paint on top of that. Nobody will ever know that you had a boo-boo. Yeah, works really well. I'm using some peachy colors for these fruit centers. There's some of the peachy tones I've mixed to do the centers of the fruit. I've mixed up some darker shades in here just by adding some black to it here and some burnt umber light over in that part to the existing colors. And that's how you can shade things and get more depth, is just by adding a darker color to your mixed colors already. Because I won't need all this paint for the details of this ends of the fruit. And at this point I'm doing some blending with this bigger brush. Well, I'm using a flat but pointed tapered brush to dab color on there, and then to blend it is almost like a stippling. I just go in and just by dabbing at it, I'm blending it. It makes a nice transition and gives it a little texture too. Visible texture. The paint's still flat on there. I don't do thick paint that shows brush strokes much. But if you do, that's fine. Everybody's got their own technique. This is almost the consistency of a watercolor paint, the way I have it thinned down. And I keep spraying my paint with the water bottle, with the mister. This is kind of a part of it that I enjoy. When you start adding more depth, it really starts to make things pop. Your darks will push it away from you, and your light colors will bring it towards you. Add a little bit further. I am working on the bottom here, getting some details in there. Shaping up the fruits. Some of them are shaded with green. Some had touches of more of the peachy color. So it's starting to pull it all together. But I need to take a break. It is gorgeous outside. It's upper 60s. It's really nice. And it's not windy. So I'm going to go do a little work outside. Maybe I'll get the garden cleaned up. And then I'll get back to painting. So thanks for joining me again. So this is Cindy from Bosie Creative Living. Keep on watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe and hit that bell so you get notified of more videos. There will be more on this painting as I go along here. So you can keep on watching. Thanks so much. Bye for now.